Alrighty. I think we can get going. And yeah, so thanks everyone for joining. This is the March meeting of Portland Urban Beekeepers. I am super excited because we kind of have a little different of a meeting today. We're going to have 3 topics and speakers and cover a lot of stuff. So we'll start off with Mackenzie talking about log hives and swarms, some interesting stuff that he's doing around the Portland area. Then we'll throw it over to Dewey for him to talk about his Pacific Northwest honeybee loss survey and then some spring management tips. And then we're going to completely shift gears and hand it over to Graham for a few minutes to talk about honeybees on flags. So it's called vexology, kind of interesting. Just some housekeeping stuff before we get started. As you know, we're a nonprofit, the Portland Urban Beekeepers. So membership dues are donations to our organization and help support us in our education and out at the apiary. But what do you get for that? So you'll get put onto our swarm list, which we'll be talking about in a little bit because we're upgrading that. We have our Bee Buddy program. So if you're looking to mentor somebody, or if you're looking to learn because you're a first-year beekeeper or having trouble, that's a great place to start. You can join us out at the bee days at the apiary. So we have several hives hosted out at Green Anchors over by the St. John's Bridge. And we go out there. We're going to be starting to go out there twice a month, starting this Saturday. And we also have a library. You can check out books and candles and molds and stuff like that, rental of equipment from extractors, refractometers, and observation hives, all sorts of fun stuff there. We have our website and the classifieds on that. And most importantly, we do try to donate back as much money as we can into honeybee research. So in 2021, we donated just about $20,000 to Ragesh Samili and Andoni over at Oregon State University, OSU. So a lot of fun. Please consider joining if you're not already a member. Like I just said, one of the benefits is the Bee Buddy program. So members, if you're not signed up on this and you'd like to, it's really easy. All you have to do is go to our website and click on the resources tab and then click on the Bee Buddy map. From there, you'll be able to fill out some information about yourself, either if you want to learn or if you want to mentor. So you can fill out how many hives you have, and if you're looking to mentor or learn, if you're willing to travel, if you want somebody to come see you, and it's a great place to start. So yeah, we have about 45 people registered on that so far. And I've met several people in my neighborhood that I mentor or learn from. And I think it's a great way to connect, especially since we're in still a virtual mode right now. So all right, so we are upgrading our swarm software. So what does that mean for you? It means that you have to re-register on our new swarm list. So members, we will be sending out a link on the website where you can go and register again. It takes 2 seconds. You just put in your name, your address, your range, and some other things, and then you'll be able to receive swarms again for 2022. So when I send out the recording of this, I will include the link to where you need to go, and we're going to walk through it here as well. So one more time, I'm already on the swarm list. Do I need to sign up? Yes, you need to sign up again. So yes, you need to sign up again. And it's not a big deal. It'll be really easy. We've also dedicated Jana's time. So Jana is our vice president. And if you have any questions or you want help walking through any piece of it, Jana is there to help. Please lean on her for any assistance you may need. But like I said, it's super easy. You're just going to go to the pub website, and I will include a link to that when I send out the recording. You're going to fill out your details here. And the most important pieces you're going to want to fill out are the registration code. So because they'll want to know that you're with the Portland Urban Beekeepers and not one of the other companies that uses them, you will be provided a registration code in that email. So you'll put that in here. You fill out your name, your email, your phone, all that great information. And then you'll get down to this box, the range. And the range is super important. I'll talk about it on one other screen, but that's one of the biggest reasons we're upgrading is a little more accuracy around the range as well. So fill out all this information, you click submit, You're going to put in a password and everything, and that will actually allow you to manage your profile now. So instead of calling us or emailing us asking if you are currently registered on the swarm list year to year, you can actually go in and see yourself. So you'll have a password, you'll have a login, and if there's any other point that you want to stop receiving swarms for a month or two because you're going to be out of town, there's actually going to be a do not disturb on there. So you can flick that on, flick that off, and everything. So once everybody gets registered, we can go into what it looks like on the back end. But yeah, it's very easy. Like I said, more information in our email, which will be coming out after this. So one more time, please feel free to email Jana if you have any problems after we send out the email tomorrow with the registration link. And I think we'll have another great year. So we had over 100 calls last year in 2021. I received a swarm. I'm no other people around me who received swarms from it. So we do get a lot of traction. We have pretty good metrics as far as our ranking on Google, and we have really good SEO for when we come up when somebody searches for swarms in the Portland area. So people do use this and they get a lot of swarms off of that. So this is the range piece of it. Now, let me go back. So you see how range is set to 10. So this is in miles. So this means that when I fill this out as Ian, I'm setting my range to 10. Now you can slide it up or down or however you want. But if we use 10 as an example and go here, we can see that if A is Ian and I am position 11 on our rank, right? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way down for everybody who's registered on here. And a swarm gets called in with a location within my 10-mile radius. I will be the first one to get that over somebody who might be position 1, but they have a much smaller radius. So if my range is 10 miles and this swarm is within 10 miles and I am the highest within that range, then I would win, right? I would be called, or I would be texted first and I would have the opportunity to claim that swarm. In this scenario, which is more likely to happen because there's a lot of us in Portland, if we have overlapping ranges and a swarm is called, that is when the position 1 would win out. So this is kind of like what we do mostly nowadays, but if you look at this scenario, it's just a different way to do it. It's the way the new system does it. I wanted to point that out because it will matter. A way to make sure you get called on every swarm in the Portland area is to make this 99. So if you want to respond to calls wherever they are within Portland and you feel like you're going to be missing out if you don't, then just put this as 99 and you won't have to worry about it. So otherwise you can dictate how many miles you want to go based off your range. I want to stop there and see if anybody has any questions about that. Okay.
How are the positions ranked? Like what makes a person 1, and is it just when they sign up?
Yeah, so it'll just be when you signed up. So if you get the email tomorrow and you sign up before me, you'll be 1 and I'll be 2. So
Thanks.
So what browser do we have to use? Last year, even trying to report a swarm, you couldn't use Safari or Firefox. You had to use Chrome.
I will double check on that for us, but I'm pretty sure that we are removing the browser requirements now. So you can use any browser, mobile or desktop, and you'll be fine. But I'll take a note on that and I will put that in our email. Any other questions? Okay, awesome. And again, if you do have any other questions, feel free to email Jana or myself, so vice president or president, and we'd be more than happy to chat with you guys about this. So
Can I jump in for a second, Ian?
Yeah.
I just wanted to clarify something that on those positions. Your position when you get put into the software this first time isn't going to dictate your position permanently. If you get called for a swarm and you accept it, then you'll be put to the bottom of the list and everybody else moves up one. So that if you've gotten a swarm, you'll be at the bottom and you'll have to kind of work your way back up to the top with a number of swarms.
Yeah, good call.
that
You're
makes
not
sense.
at position 1 permanently. If you are at position 1 and you claim this swarm, you'd go down to whatever, 10 now, and then you have to work your way back up. So just like our current swarm list works that way. So anything else? Okay. Feel free to drop questions in chat too if you don't want to unmute and chat with us. So we've had our first B school already. Susie, who is our education liaison on the board, she hosted the first one in February, but we do have 3 more, and that first one was recorded. So if you do join or are looking to join, you can go back and watch that first one and then catch the upcoming ones as well. But B school is a really great way for new beekeepers to get it in-depth, almost one-on-one Zoom session with Susie, who's a great beekeeper, and she's been doing it for a few years. So yeah, a lot of information. Our first one was about an intro to beekeeping, and now in a few days, about a week, we'll be going into spring management, honeybee biology, reading frames and evaluating your bees, varroa mites, etc. So, and again, these are all recorded, so you can go back and watch them afterwards. And yeah, Susie's also always available for questions too. I think she really enjoys that. Bee days at the apiary. So we have our first bee day coming up on the 6th, which is Sunday, and that is at Green Acres. So we're going to be doing equipment assembly and possibly first inspections based on the weather. I don't think the weather's gonna be great for that, so we'll probably just be doing some equipment assembly. So Tim Wessels, who's over there at Green Acres, he is going to have some air nailers and other things out there for us, and we'll have a covered area to sit under. It's open to the air and everything. It's a big ramada. So this is kind of our social aspect of the club right now, but we'll be doing it twice a month. So the 6th is equipment assembly and probably not first inspections, and then March 20th, so in 2 weeks after that, we'll be actually doing full inspections and then kind of sourcing how the community who shows up wants to do the beekeeping for that year. So what do they want to see? What are the things they want to learn? And really help us chart out our bee season for the upcoming year. That is 10 a.m. to noon this coming Sunday. Whoops. If you have questions, feel free to contact Bruce at apiary at Portland Urban Beekeepers. He'd be happy to chat with you. It's a little confusing getting there, right? And I actually have I thought I had the address here. I will drop the address in chat in a minute, but this is the address, and this is actually Green Acres. So this is Green Acres, but there's not a lot of parking on site, but there is a park right next door. So the Cathedral boat ramp. So please park in here and then take a short little walk down here. So this is a big opening. You can't miss it. You just walk straight down, all the way down until you hit this ramada. And this is what I was talking about. We'll be sitting underneath. So our hives are over in this area, but essentially you'll hit this, you'll see everybody sitting there. So feel free to come join us. It'll be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it. Any questions on Green Acres before we keep going?
Their website.
Do we have to sign up to join the bee days?
Nope, you can show up to the bee days, but we do have waivers you have to sign just as part of our agreement to be on site for Green Acres. So
We can sign those waivers at the site?
you
Or do
can
we
sign
have-
it at the site, or you can do it online. And I will drop that in chat too, so you can do it while we're talking. But it's pretty simple. You just fill out your name and that's about it. So you just press sign. So any other questions?
Yeah, do we need to bring any of our own equipment or our bee suit, anything like that to the bee day?
So for this first one, like I said, I don't think we're gonna be doing inspections just because I haven't checked the weather again, but I don't think we were gonna be actually going into the hives. Let's look really quick. But in the future, if we are going to the hives, you will want to bring your suit and everything. So Sunday is going to be out 55. It may be nice enough just to wear a quick peek, but we won't be doing full deep dives into the hives. So
Ian,
mhm.
just sorry to interrupt. What we're going to do is just make sure we have bees.
Awesome.
And then we'll go work on assembling and go from there. So we won't be working on hives. Maybe it wouldn't be a bad idea to have your suit if we walk out there and look at the bees, because the rule is if you go on the apron, you must have a veil.
Okay.
Great, thanks.
Good enough. But yeah, if you want to bring equipment because you want to sit and bang nails together and assemble it, we will all be out there hanging out together. All right. Okay, that's what I have. So some upcoming speakers. So we have April, we have Kelly coming from WSU. So she's gonna be talking about best practices for small scale beekeepers. In May, we have Ramesh. He's gonna be talking to us about honeybee nutrition. And then in June, we're having Dewey back to be a headliner to talk about queens and queen issues around post-swarming, supersedures, etc. So exciting lineup. If you have any speaker suggestions or topics you want to hear on, please feel free to email myself or Jana, and we'll be happy to try to line up those speakers. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Mackenzie, and I will share your presentation. And you just let me know when you want to go.
All right. Thanks, Ian. Thank you, John, for inviting me to speak about Milog hives. So you can run it.
Right.
So basically, I don't know if there's any volume to that, but let me see.
Can you all hear that now?
No, that's okay.
All right.
But basically, it's kind of more of a kind of a. Do you want to go back to the beginning there? So this situation right here for me is like where I've ended up, a more tranquil, peaceful way of kind of like enjoying the bees, doing my log beehives and focusing on swarm habitat. But prior to that, it was a bit of a mess of the ups and the downs, you know, with beekeeping. But initially, you know, why did I get into beekeeping? Well, the main reason is that I run a small company and I was pretty stressed out about work and depressed and becoming more and more isolated. And a friend of mine encouraged me to get into beekeeping. So I thought, well, you know, maybe that will help me kind of calm down a little bit, step away from my work. So what could go wrong with beekeeping? Well, real quick, I found out quite a lot can actually go wrong. And my first attempt was to do bee packages, and the 3 packages that I ordered, they arrived like this. That was my first year. So nothing really happened. And then my second attempt were the nukes. And initially that was actually a real good start. You know, they came in, there was lots of bees. I did everything that was required for managing the bees. I had a mentor and it was great, you know, lots of honey, lots of bees. But then every year it was like the bees in the spring, they were either gone or dead. And that brought me right back to the beginning again of being like depressed and anxious, like, what is going on? Why am I losing my bees? Why are my bees dying? And then I read a couple of books with Tom Seeley, The Honeybee Democracy and the Wild Bees especially. So I thought, let's go hunting for bees then and see what's different in the wild. So that was in the winter. And right from the get-go, I found wild honeybee nests. And it's a lot easier because in the winter and the spring, there's no canopy for you to block the view all the way up these trees. So if you go hiking, you can look at these cracks and crevices and holes in the trees. And more than likely, even on day one, you're going to find a wild honeybee nest or a feral honeybee nest, whatever you want to call it. But this one here was amazing because the bees didn't come up. I put the camera down and then the light of the camera kind of brought them up. So I kind of disturbed them. But all the way down, you can see this wall is covered in propolis. And then the upper chamber, that was a small chamber. Then there was another entrance at the top. And look at this thing. It's receded back, but the whole interior is again caked in propolis. So that chamber actually drops down. So I kind of like left that for a few weeks and then came back when we had warm weather. And there they were. I was so happy to see that. So I set up some swarm boxes in that area to see if I could get lucky with catching some bees. But in the hunting phase of finding honeybee nests, that's essentially what you're looking for. Even if it's like in really cold outside, you're going to see this propolis rings if there's a nest or if there had been a nest there prior or previous years. And it will probably be re-inhabited again from another swarm. So I've got well over 60 wild nests that I monitor right now because of that. And so to give you some scale and looking at what canopies look like, this maple tree here, I could see with my binoculars that there was propolis around the entrance. But fortunately for me, the sun was out, so I got to see some bee activity. So again, another place where I can put up swarm boxes. And there's a reason why I do that. It's not to put them into regular hives. I actually will put them into my log hives. So I don't ever put them in Langstroths. But this tree is really interesting. Is that Lear Hill Park? To the bottom where this activities going on is where the old entrance used to be, but the tree is ripped apart. And so they're using that now as the entrance. Finding bees in the summertime, really simple as well. I don't use the method of like the box and the honeycomb, and I just use this light through the trees. And you can always see a darting going on if you just stay still and just look between the trees. In this case here, what I thought were honeybees wasn't. It was yellow jackets, but you can see that it actually works. So I found about 8 yellow jacket nests. And here's the same thing. Standing looking through these trees, just pausing, I could see like lines of bees darting back and forth, back and forth. So the nest was either that way or it was this way. So we kept on going up and followed it back to this maple tree here. And again, you can see, look at the propolis. So if this was the winter and there was no activity, you would at least see the propolis. So it's something like if you like to go out and hike and be in nature, you can at least record the locations, then come back in the spring and look for activity. So this is at Oaks Bottom Park, really busy nest. I haven't been back this year yet. I'm assuming it's still doing okay. But again, looking for propolis, using the light through the trees. I'm not one for like sitting back and sitting in a chair. I'm not that patient. I just got to keep going. So this is a catalpa tree just up in the residential area above Oaks Bottom Park. And it's a massive catalpa tree. Did you pause that? Or is it?
Yeah, you want to go back a little bit?
Oh, it paused for me, sorry.
Oh, sorry. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so again, that catalpa tree. Can you go back to that, could you?
Sorry, I can't find my mouse. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, here.
No, the tree that had the right there, yeah. This must be a really old nest because of all the propolis. I mean, it was a huge amount. And I love the fact that the entrance had this little symbol. It looks like a key. I don't know. That just was nice for me to see anyway. Yeah, you can move forward. Thanks, Ian. See how easy it is to spot the propolis. So log beehives. So I thought I wanted to replicate what I was seeing in the wild. So using that Tom Seeley's research in the Arnott Forest about size of nests, I cut my logs about 3 to 4 feet. The diameter cavity about 12 inches. And I don't use like new wood. I like to find the rotten wood because, well, number one, it's a lot safer and it's easier to work with. Doing these, there's a guy in England that's really pretty, he's a really awesome guy. He does these like plunge cuts into dry wood. That's too dangerous for me. I'm not up for that. So I'll rough it up, widen up the diameter if I need to. And a lot of these logs, because they're rotten, they'll come with natural built-in entrances. So they have their own unique characteristics. We did a log for Jana, and it's got its own beautiful style of design. But I'll reduce all of these entrances down into like one. But they make amazing like garden furniture, or not furniture, but like ornaments. So they're, I'm not sure ornament's a good word, but feature. But then when you have the bees in them, the whole thing becomes alive. And the wood itself, as the years go on, it starts to change. The shape of it changes, the coloring changes. The propolis starts to build up around the entrances, just like it would in a natural environment. And then, like you all probably already know about propolis or your boxes, when you open the boxes, you're not going to see propolis on the smooth walls. So I leave them nice and rough like this. Some of my friends have these beautiful, pristine, but they're like carpenters, so they're kind of anal that way. Whereas I'm not. I just like shove the chainsaw in and go for it. But I've seen the interiors of nests that have abandoned, and it is immaculate inside, completely clean, just the orange propolis, and that's it. Actually, I was looking back at this video and I didn't realize that there was actually 2 queens in that swarm. This is down at Stafford Road in West Lynn. I think it's called Gem Rockery and Landscape. This is a log now. It's going into its 3rd year. It's never been treated. It's never been fed. It's never been opened. And it's swarmed 2 that we know of. And this is actually like a kind of like a mini farm. So there's always lots of people around, and they've reported the swarms coming out, and I was always close by. So I got the opportunity to then take those swarms and then install them into other log hives. So I have a record now of each log and the swarms that they cast and where they end up. So it's kind of nice to see like the sisters from this log will end up in like Woodland, Washington. This was just about 3 weeks ago. It's been pretty mild winter, so there's still lots of opportunity for this thing to die, which I hope not, knock on wood. but this is at 28 degrees recently, and huddled at the nest entrance, like a lot of the wild nests that I find, they're right there at the entrance. And I think we have in our mind that they're kind of sensitive or fragile creatures, and they're not. They're hardy as hell. At least these bees are. But the owners on this property, they had a box, and they kept losing their boxes also. This is the first time they'd ever seen their bees survive. This is up at Oldenstadt Family Farm, and that was a tiny swarm. And again, we just left it alone. I would come back about once a month and open up the lid and see how much progress they were making. And this is what's really interesting now. We get to look inside the interior of this log. This is 20 acres, and I've got 3 swarm boxes up there now, and one other log that we're about to put up. They don't use any pesticides or any other chemicals on their farm, but this hadn't been open for about 3 weeks. And what's really awesome about all of the logs that I've inspected is that wherever the entrance is at, that's exactly where they're building the comb around. And you'll see here, like they always build this sort of similar structure, and then they'll bridge over and draw down, but they're drawing up all the time. And down the walls of this log, you see these brown lines, and the bees making that kind of washboarding movement. That's them also working propolis into the grooves in the log. And this is where I came up with the swarm habitat idea. You know, Oregon, if you look at it, like 1/3 of it pretty much is heavily forested, but it's mainly commercial forestry. And so a lot of the old hollow logs or rotten trees, they're all being taken down. So it's true that 80% of swarms are actually not making it in their first year. I don't know where that number comes from, but that's what I heard. I can understand why, because they don't have anything to swarm to. So these logs, I'm just throwing them out everywhere for bees to find and find some habitat. And if this seems a bit daunting about can you actually do this, that's why I'm here. So if anybody actually wants logs, I don't charge for it. I'm just asking that nobody treats or feeds them or opens them, and I'm happy to bring logs to you, and even swarms. So this one here is at the Arboretum. It's a lady who has a house there. It's just a lovely, lovely woman, beautiful garden. We put that log in, this is its 2nd year. And these bees came from, I think it was Oregon City, somewhere near there. And they were feisty as hell, these bees. But I cracked this lid open deliberately and left the gap there with that stone, because I wanted to be able to film them building the comb, because I knew something because of Renata Borba and Spivik's work about propolis. But I wanted to film them actually making that comb. So this is really exciting to watch the transformation of this comb in the log. You know, you hear about these observation hives with the perspex or glass or doors. This is your own little observation tower that you can have in your backyard or your property, and film like I'm doing. That's all I'm doing. Nothing special. But all of this comb is just completely caked in propolis. And I haven't done anything to these bees. I've not touched them. I just leave them alone. And what's interesting is I think the temperature here was, I think it was like 35 degrees roughly, cold and wet. And those bees were really active. And the bees in my Langstroth, they were all huddled up. They weren't doing nothing. So the bees in my logs, they always seem to be really active. Sorry, I made that a little bit longer than I expected there. This is a beautiful log. I put this in here to show you the propolis just dripping down, but also there's like a silverback bee come flying in. This log hive produces quite a few of these. Look at that thing. So I've caught a couple of really amazing swarms that are just doing, they just keep banging away at all different types of temperatures. This is another log. This is actually my one at the house, but it's just showing you what Miles Spivak was talking about when the returning foragers with the propolis, the mates come up and start chewing and pulling the propolis off the legs, and then go back around applying the propolis. But then I wanted to point out something else. It's kind of, maybe I got some heat about this. I don't know why. I mean, it's normal, it's natural. But one of the bees, I don't know if you can point that out, Ian, that we talked about, that has the varroa right there. So I film a lot of these, all the logs that I film, they all have varroa. But they all survive. I'm hoping that I will actually see one day, like, I don't know, one of the mates peeling the varroa off. But anyway, so she's still nibbling away, but she's gone back and forth twice. And then further up on this log here, it's the same thing. So you can fast forward a bit there if you want to, Ian.
Yeah, I was just pointing out the propolis that they're pulling off the leg right there as well.
Yeah. One of the unfortunate things for beekeepers, like with boxes, you can't really even rough up the interior of your box, because if you do that, then you're going to have more problems trying to get the frames out of the box. So I've been hearing that people suggesting that be done, which is a great idea, but I think you probably have a lot of problems getting your frames out of the box, because when they set solid, it's tough enough as it is on the top part, to loosen it up. Anyway, I don't know. I can sit here for hours just looking at this stuff. So this is another log. It looks the same as the other one, Oldenstadt, but this is also at the Arboretum. And same thing, building from the bottom, building up. And all those bees there are all propolizing the nest. Look at that, all these deep grooves are all black. That's a lot of work. So even if my approach to it is now is, even if the bees die or something happens to them, what I'm left with is a log that's fully propolized, ready for the next swarm, and they'll have less work to do. And this is pretty much coming to the end, but I wanted to show you at least some really close-up shots of how they're building the propolis walls in their nest. You can see a mixture, and look at real close at their mandibles. They're all carrying propolis, and they're all carrying like wax, or you can even see a mixture of, I suggest reading this Benefits of Propolis. It's a really interesting article. But you can see like the grooves of like, all those, that's flakes of wax as well, but you can see real close that they're the mixture of both. Anyway, so if you're into like wanting a log hive, this is what you get to watch. It's pretty astounding, really. Look at that flake of there you go, yeah. So honestly, I don't know the real reason why they're succeeding, but I think it's just because the common denominator is that I'm not involved in messing around in the nest, because my success rate right now is I'm well over 90% survival of my logs. I've only had 2 die out this year. So that is pretty much it, really.
Mackenzie,
Sorry?
there's a question in the chat.
Oh, I can't see the chat, sorry.
Yeah, so I'll read it to you. Someone's asking, how long are the colonies lasting without mite treatment? We got about 2 years max before we started treating.
Well, these logs are like this one here is his 4th year. The one down at Stafford Road, that's year 3.
And then there's another question that says, do you ever harvest the log hive honey, or are they only for swarm farming?
Well, it's not really swarm farming. It's more actually for pollination, first of all, and talking about our environment, the need to have food for them to forage. So being aware of, what we're planting, what we're laying down. Unfortunately, like, you probably already know, well, I won't get into that, sorry. As far as the swarming, that's just a side benefit. I think a healthy colony is a swarming colony, honestly. And if I can catch the swarm, then great. It just goes straight back into another log. Some of the logs that have died out, I've got one video on YouTube that shows the really beautiful big bricks of honey. So, but I know plenty of bee guys, so they give me honey. My wife is always like saying, "You have all these logs and we got no honey." So I was like, "I know, I'm sorry."
We have another question that says, how do you protect the log hive from moisture entering the top during the winter?
Well, it's got a log top, an end cut. Is that what you mean?
I think that's probably what the question was asking.
Yeah, the logs have the bottom. There's 2 issues. Well, the one main issue is actually vermin, rats, mice, squirrels. They're like, one of my log hives was decimated by a nest on top and a nest below the brood chamber. But all of them have a lid in the bottom and a lid on the top, and then they build up the comb to the top, and then they seal the lid shut, so nothing's getting in. And I'm assuming not only is the wood or the log breathable, but the propolis itself is breathable.
So you have the bottom just with plywood on the bottom, or how do you seal the bottom off?
No, I have like a log, an end cut, and it's well, not all the time actually, but then I put like a chicken wire down below, so that nothing can come up, because that happened before. So I cut that, sealed it up. It's still breathable. It's just the chicken wire, and then the top part, I put the log end cut on top, and they will propolize up and seal it. The one at the Arboretum, I had to use like clay because the gap was so big. So,
And there's a couple more questions if you're willing to take a couple more questions.
oh yeah.
Graham is asking, do you ever have more than one opening for ventilation and less moisture?
Yeah, I mean, you know, the logs are, like I said, you like, if I'm in construction, so I think about, you know, moisture barriers and, you know, condensate, the like moisture pressure, like if pressure inside will move moisture out, unless what they're encountering is some kind of barrier where it cannot move out. With a log, and to be fair, I have not actually studied moisture in my log, so I don't know. My point of reference is they're surviving so far, but I just leave them alone. It's just like a tree, really. So.
Jennifer says, so beautiful. Do the hives smell like propolis or like a laying hive, which I think smells sweet like honey?
Yeah, it's like sweet like honey. Just a beautiful aroma. Yeah, it's and then when the sun hits it in the morning, yeah, it's amazing. Really is amazing. Well, that's the other thing about these logs as well, about you know, your wild temperature swings. That doesn't happen. You got, you know, 2 to 6 inch wall thickness. So in the dead heat, it's not really penetrating the hive. And then the extreme cold, they're keeping that temperature or whatever it is in the winter. Can't remember, is it 45 degrees? I can't remember. Yeah, for insulation, yeah. And it doesn't matter whether the log is actually open in the field or deep in the woods, because a lot of the nests that I find are deep in the woods. So in a full canopy deep in the woods, they're flying out there foraging.
When you place your log hives, do you ever place them in full direct sunlight, or do you always put them in partial shade?
I always put, where possible, put them in shade. Yeah.
And then one last question I have is, how did you get those amazing videos? What kind of camera are you using?
Well, I can't tell you, I'd have to kill you.
Okay, I won't ask.
No, I'm kidding. So it's just an old iPhone.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. iPhone 15, which doesn't exist yet, but.
Well, the videos were beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I love just sitting in front of the logs and watching them. But more importantly, I love to watch the people who had struggled with keeping their hives alive and just being in the same place that I was at, which was, I'm done with this. I'm done with beekeeping, and it's, you know, it's too much hard work. It's messy, it's expensive. And I found the sport easier, lazier, cheaper way of doing things. And on that note, actually, if you guys want a log hive, I'm more than happy to bring one out to you guys if you want one. And like I said, like some people know I don't charge for it, so I contact all the. And if you want to do it yourself, call the arborists, call the tree guys. They're always trying to get rid of logs. Really simple, you know. And thanks for your interest.
Actually, to that point on the logs, there's a website in Portland. It's called Tree Drop or something like that. You can sign up, and if there's an arborist in your neighborhood cutting down a tree, they'll actually drop the logs at your house.
Yeah, no, don't do that.
No?
No,
Why not?
because you have like 20 logs turn up at your house.
Got a lot of hives then.
Yeah, but they're all like, I tried that. It's like, I can't take that.
Never mind. Don't listen to me.
2 more questions on the chat, and then I
Okay.
think we have some other speakers we got to move to. Have you found or know of pseudoscorpion, also known as a false scorpion or book scorpion, helping the hive to get rid of the mites? So have you ever seen that in your log hives?
No, what's it called? A fork scorpion.
Pseudoscorpion, also known as false scorpion and book scorpion.
Never heard of it. I'm gonna look it up now. I'll completely nerd out on that one.
Okay. And then the last question on the chat is, where do you find the logs?
Arborists, tree guys, a lot of general contractors, big general contractors who are doing jobs, commercial, residential jobs. They'll be taking down trees. And on that note, actually, you'd be surprised that a lot of the joint general contracting guys, they are really in tune, believe it or not, with the environment. In fact, the state requires, the county requires that you, that as part of whatever they're doing, that they have to maintain this balance and don't destroy but build up. If anything, they do more positive things for the environment than destructive, and they actually get a lot of things done. So they do take trees down, but they do plant trees, and those trees that are hollow, they'll happily give to you or drop off to you. You know, it's a lot easier for them just to take it to somewhere and drop it off than try and get rid of it somewhere else, you know. So or call me and I'll put you on my list, and I'll come out and bring you a log or point you in the right direction. So I don't know if you can, if I'm allowed to put my email up or something.
Yeah, feel free to throw it in chat, or I can send it out when I send out the email of the recording tomorrow.
Well, I really hope that some of you guys maybe will look at having some logs or a log. They're fascinating to watch, especially if you love beekeeping. Just that little bit different thing you can add.
Cool. Thanks, Mackenzie.
Cheers.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you, thank you.
That was super interesting. Dewey, are you still on the line? I gotta pull my.
Hi there, I am.
Hey.
I was
All
just
right.
putting a note in about pseudoscorpions
Oh,
Oh.
interesting.
in the chat. They're not an Oregon feature. We've never found them here. Very interesting, but miticides have pretty much wiped them out of counties everywhere.
Interesting. All right. Over to you, Dewey.
All righty, thank you. Good evening, all. Pleasure to be able to join you. Like Alistair, I too just love watching the bees and some of that fantastic photography. I mean, seeing bees pull that propolis off the legs of the bees there, and how heavily they work propolis at their entrance. I'm going to switch. By the way, Ian put up the waiver for the pub apiary. We do have a log hive at the pub apiary. We also have a top bar hive at the pub apiary, but it doesn't look like it's survived winter. But you'll have a chance to see log hives at our own pub apiary down at Green Acres. I'm going to talk next couple minutes about early spring. Sometimes I wonder if my bees are thinking about me too. In this type of weather, that's about all we get to do. But it's a good time to watch the lovely photography from that we've just been able to see. So spring, this month is a busy month for the bees, a very variable month. We know during these cold nights and cold and wet and rainy days, they are in a cluster, but they do get out and get regular cleansing flights from our area, which is what some bees do need to do. And when they can fly, you'll quickly see bees coming back with pollen. And as you can see here, 2 bees coming back, but from 2 very different sources. We've gone past the winter equinox, so the queen knows, the bees know that spring is coming. So right now the queen is increasing egg laying. In fact, we're going to find some colonies that can be pretty strong at this time of year. Others are just sort of getting to start in their buildup. And this is kind of a critical time in terms of some of our managements. We may be thinking of stimulatory food, but more likely this month, most of us more in emergency food. If you like to put on extra protein, pollen patties, our bees here generally have lots of sources. But if you like to do this as a management, This is the month to try to do it. Pollen patties are your best bang for your buck is when bees are bringing in pollen. And as long as when they can get out, they will be bringing in pollen. If you have solid bottom boards, particularly, this is a good time to clean a bottom board. It's a mess usually this time of year. As soon as you get a day where it's 50 or more, look and search for any of those dead outs. Pick up the dead outs, get that equipment out of the apiary. You don't want bees robbing it, and you want to save those frames because they're potential feed frames. And wax moth can get started in those dead outs as soon as it starts warming up. And then we're going to look at colonies, and we're going to try to determine what of our survivors, how they're doing, the strength of our survivors. So here's a dead out. This is a medium box on top of a standard. 3 frames. You can see they had started brood rearing. Here's a brand new patch of brood rearing. The queen is dead along with the workers. Here's the queen on 3 different frames. There's some young brood here. In this case, there was no stores. They've eaten the stores on these 3 frames and their immediate frames. So perhaps this was a starvation, perhaps related to mites as well. And a public service announcement: your hive is not dead until you open the box. Until observed, it exists in a state of superposition where it is both alive and dead. So get out your wishing stone and wish one way or the other. Most of us are going to hope that right now it is still alive and will stay alive in our early spring here. Okay. Our managements, as I indicated, our major one, once we get a day that starts to get above 50 degrees without a wind, without rain, obviously, and without a wind, in the sunshine, we can get in and take a look at what we've got in terms of survivors. We're going to see what we refer to as the Goldilocks concept. So of our surviving colony or colonies, we're going to have colonies that are right now, this time of year, 2 week. We're going to have, if you got more than one, you're going to have another colony that might be too strong. And the Goldilocks concept, remember Goldilocks going into the woods, into the bear's cabin and finding forage, too hot, too cold, and just right. Well, that's where we hope most of our colonies are, in that sweet spot, that just right. And at this time of year, that is going to be, if we're looking here in the top box, these are mostly single box. These come courtesy of Steve Rapaski, who's a beekeeper in Pennsylvania that runs single boxes year round, essentially year round. So these are single boxes, but if we're looking at our top box, here's our winter feed, here's our sugar candy, mostly gone. There's still a little bit of it left. We have pollen on this one, but you can see the 2 week is only a couple of frames where the bees are in a couple of frames. Too strong is when they are kind of going side to side. They've eaten all their emergency feed up. And just right is that sweet spot sort of in between. Well, why we want to do this and take a look is now here in this month, in March, we're going to try to make our management or fashion our management over what we're going to find. On those colonies that are a little too weak, what we want to try to see is, come on here. We want to try to find on those that are too weak that we're going to probably need or feed them or boost them. Boost them means give them some brood from another colony. For example, most of those strong colonies we might want to weaken, and starting this month, we may well want to do that. So we can take a frame or 2 of brood from the strong colony and give it over to the weak one. And if colonies have a lot of honey, still some colonies have little honey, and we find the weak colonies don't, or the just right colonies are a little bit thin on honey, we can take honey out as well. So mostly the 2 week we're going to feed or boost. We want to weaken the colonies that are a little too strong, but not give up on the just right doesn't mean it's okay. We don't need to do anything. We're going to want to watch that colony. Okay. We're going to want to check and help sort of guide them in their development so that they become stronger. Certainly, we don't want them to become weaker, but we also then, certainly beginning next month, when our chance of swarming is going to increase very drastically, we're not going to want them to get so strong that they then become a colony that starts rearing queen cells, and we've got to do our swarm management. So the first thing we're going to look, Goldilocks concept, and kind of then by different colonies, where they are, kind of trigger our management, what we're going to do with our management. March is always a roller coaster month for beekeepers and their hives here in the Pacific Northwest, a roller coaster of emotions, hive conditions, new season planning and support actions, both missed and unplanned. Remember, on the roller coaster, hold on tight. This is a month I worry about losing beekeepers as losing hives, because you get them through this part and then you lose them, and that really hurts. If the mites have already taken them out, that hurts certainly, but you get one through and then you lose it this month, those really hurt. March is rarely a pretty month for Pacific Northwest beekeeping, except for some pollen foraging. If luckily, when we get all giddy and joyful, our palms get all sweaty and we then can't wait to go and get into those colonies. So spring. One final comment. This is the month I start with our annual PNW Honeybee Loss, which is hosted here on the website for PNW for the pub group. This is a record of the last dozen years of losses here in the Pacific Northwest. This is specifically for Oregon beekeepers. The red line at the bottom with these numbers is the loss of the commercial beekeepers, commercial here being individuals that have 50 or more colonies. The green line in between is the loss of the Oregon backyard beekeepers, small scale beekeepers. In other words, those individuals that have 50 or fewer colonies. This past year, 40 or fewer colonies. And the blue line up above is the losses that the pub members have had over the last 8 years. You can see last year was equal to the overall losses for the backyarders. This year, the pub losses jumped up this past year, not the one we're in now, jumped up just a little bit, 35% loss for Oregon backyard beekeepers. That's a 300 and almost 50 individuals, and almost 50, a little more than 50 individuals, 40% loss for pub members. And for the commercial beekeepers, representing about half of the colonies we think are in the state, they always have less. You can see commercial losses are about half of our backyard losses. Pub losses have always been heavier, a couple of years about the same, but we're closing the gap. Last year the same, and this past year only a 5% difference in terms of losses. The clubs are using the honeybee biology for our instruction. For extra, if you want the maladies, I've got those in the last book that I have as well. So good luck this spring. Spring is starting. As soon as we get some weather, it will get underway in earnest here. But remember, we will have that occasional swarm in March, but April starts our major swarming month. So March goes very quickly with relatively few days. We got to try to keep ahead of our bees. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Dewey. Any questions for Dewey? Are you accepting entries for the swarm loss right now? Or sorry, the hive loss?
So the PNW Honeybee Survey, that starts in this month, mid-March, though, not yet. It's not open just yet. And it's pretty much the same as last year. Take you 5 to maybe 7, 8 minutes to go ahead and fill it out. And I really, really appreciate all that we have. It doesn't matter what kind of hive you have, 8-frame, 10-frame, log hive, have a top bar hive. All of those can be reported on our survey. And I appreciate all those that are willing to continue to send that information in year after year after year.
Awesome. Yeah, we have it linked on our website as well, but I'll send it out in the email once it opens up too. So
Thank you.
There is a quick question on the chat, if you don't mind answering.
No, go ahead.
When
Dan.
should I rotate brood boxes in my hives?
You can start that once we start getting a little bit more reliable foraging. When we get a day that gets above 50, or preferably 60, you can look in the bottom box. If it's pretty much empty and you got a lot of old frames, you can start culling frames from the bottom box. If the bees are pretty much in the top box, that's it. Then you can go ahead and rotate the whole box, to put in top one down below, and letting the bees then expand up above. We got to wait a little bit to put some foundation frames in there, but towards the end of the month, usually we can start taking out fully drawn comb and making some more frames from putting in frames of foundation. So anytime they're in the top box, yeah, you can go ahead and rotate, move the top box down, the bottom box up.
A question that came into me, and I'll ask you, if our hive falls into the weak category, and after the first inspection, in addition to a pollen patty, should we also provide sugar water?
If they're weak on honey stores as well. So weak there was referring to how big the population is, but you also should check on honey stores. So absolutely. Some people would like to wait a little bit before we go ahead and put sugar syrup on because it's stimulatory. And stimulating a colony early means you might have more problems with swarming next month or in May. So dry sugar or a sugar candy, you just simply make some dry sugar into a candy formation and put it in on top of the colony. The moisture comes up from below, melts the sugar candy below. So the first half of the month, we really think dry sugar or sugar candy, but provided we start getting some decent forage weather towards the end of the month, the sugar syrup. But just be aware you're stimulating the sugar syrup.
Awesome, thank you. Any other questions? Cool. Thank you.
Great.
Dewey.
Good luck.
Appreciate
Good
it.
luck with the spring. It's going to happen soon, sooner.
Gotta sign
Thank
up on that
you.
swarm list.
Okay, yeah.
All right. And to the last person we have tonight, Graham. Can you start off by telling us about the flag behind you? That's a really cool flag.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I just want to say thank you, Dewey, and thank you, Duncan. Super awesome presentations and data collection, both graphically and also videographically. And yeah, I'm super interested in all that. So I appreciate hearing all that. This flag is from Latvia. I'm definitely going to talk about it more because I'm going to give a little presentation about flags around the world with bees on them. And so I've been a beekeeper for about 7 years, and I've just gotten into flags in the past 2 years. So I'm really kind of trying to merge these two interests of mine as always. But of course, I've been thinking about bees and flowers and people and flags, and of course, the theory of natural selection. So, you know, I invite you all to give me feedback and to think about this with me. It's just an exploratory kind of thing. But of course, what do bees and flags have in common? Check out this flag. Looks like a bee. Well, of course, they both fly. A bee and a flag, and they both flap in the wind. And this is actually from the Netherlands. It's actually a real flag. It kind of looks like a bee, but not bee flag. So we're going to get into more of them, but we're going to explore bees on flags and the symbolic significance of bees throughout cultures with flags. A mutual relationship between bees and flowers, of course, pollination, and people and flags. Culture. I'm going to look at genetic evolution and cultural evolution and kind of the process it follows, and try to think about a mathematical framework that can kind of maybe bridge this gap. I'm not going to claim that flags are alive or that flags are like attracting people or anything woo-woo. So, of course, I'm a beekeeper. Here I am with a top bar, and I have some mason bees and some bumblebees I've been really trying to do the past few years. I'm also a flag keeper. Been really interested in all the iconography that we have in culture. So I tried to compile all the flags around the world with insects and invertebrates specifically. And apparently bees way outnumber all the other critters on flags when it comes to insects and invertebrates, as we can see by this one from Estonia. So I thought that was interesting. Honeybees are just the most utilized symbol on flags. So why would bees be on flags? And I made this presentation a handful of months ago, and it's definitely evident that it's relevant with, we got a Russian flag and Ukrainian flag, both heavily agricultural cultures, societies, and I think the beekeepers are going to be some of the peacekeepers throughout this whole thing, because we just want to have a safe ecology for everyone. Well, why bees on flags? Of course, they're industrious, as we can see by the Czech Republic, kind of with that industry and the anchor and the gear. And they're super industrious with building, just infrastructure, as we can see by this flag from France. The honeybee is an important symbol because it's really strong. It has a military strength, as this story tells of in the 1500s in Spain, they used honeybee, they threw honey hives off the roof of a castle on the invaders and kept them away and helped win the battle. But of course, honeybees sting, as you can see, as they're kind of symbolized here with the swords and the sharpness of them. Of course, another aspect is the honeybee is an artisan. By this flag behind me, we can see they make the beautiful nectar that we all love, and it's just a treat to the whole world. It's a medicine. It's a artifact. It's artisan. So, and of course, the final thing is that the honeybee is united, and they work together, and it's definitely a hive mind kind of thing, as you can see by Russia and Germany with these flags. I wanted to show you some more flags from around the world with bees. Slovenia, of course, where a lot of great beekeeping comes from. Some more Czech Republic. This one from Brazil is super interesting because this is actually a stingless bee. I think there's about 4 or so species of stingless bee that create honey. That's in that flag. And here's the island, Elba Island, Napoleon's famous flag. Some more flags with bees from Switzerland, Poland, Russia again, and of course Utah. It's the only state flag with a skep on it. And interesting enough, the state is going through a flag adoption process and redesign process right now. And the skep, the octagon, the honeybee is a really prominent graphic that they're using and all that. I wanted to show you some Portugal. Out of all the few hundred bees with flags, Portugal has a huge amount. As you can see by a variety of these flags with the coat of arms, the bee is really a strong symbol. And Duncan, I pulled this one in real quick actually, because this one looks like, as you were talking and showing all the stuff about the logs, this looks something similar to a log cultural keeping from Poland. So of course, I just had a show and tell, but I want to take it a little bit further. And the honeybees, of course, are industrious and defensive and artisan and united. And it's because of a mutual relationship with flowers, and pollen, and all the wonderful things. And I'm going to say that also that humans are industrious and defensive, and we're artisans, and we're united. And we have an emotional and existential and philosophical relationship with flags, not flowers. So it made me think, what came first, the bee or the flower? I looked into the articles and literature a little bit and found that bees are 145 million years old. And fossils show that flowers with pollen are 130 million years old. So it seems that flower diversification is attributed to a mutual relationship with bees. You can see the pollen starting to happen. And of course, you guys know this. This is what makes the world go round, the evolutionary cycle of replication and diversification, especially with bees and flowers. And the more I become a beekeeper, the more I become a flower keeper. And my garden has grown just to kind of have year round. But same, we know which came first. The human came before the flag. But fossils kind of show that flags came kind of from they became diversified and modified through an attributed mutual relationship with humans, kind of like a pollination thing. I'm having fun thinking about this. The same thing that makes the world go round, of people taking attributes and the replication and diversification that happens with these icons. So I thought this is kind of fun to kind of compare how the process of replicating traits is evident in flowers, of course, but also in the flags around the world. And there's similar elements and properties that evolve together. I hope I stopped that early. I don't want to waste our time too much. But of course, what I'm getting at is a sample of genes and memes. We have this family of flower and of course this family of star. And we can see kind of how the replication and diversification is happening in both. So evolution is defined as traits reproducing, whether it's bees and humans or people and flags. And the price equation is what I found that could be a way to understand correlated change between these two entities, or I guess bees and flowers and people and flags. And the equation has two terms to describe change. Here's the trait. When it covaries, a trait could be, a flower, or it could be an iconic image, and it covaries with the fitness and kind of how people use it, and if it's strong enough to be used, and the entities of which population uses it. And of course, it has something for genetic drift. It has another variable of the environment and how that just changes everything. So I wanted to kind of compare that to flowers and bees and people and flags, and see that the same process of change happens with just the ecology of cultural evolution and biological evolution. So yeah, the traits of fitness, the transmission from each generation to another, whether these were flower groups or flag groups around the world, the variance and replication, and the fitness of a flower that attracts the most bees, or a flag that is used by the most people. So the equation is talking more about a relationship between physical descriptors and population dynamics. So I feel like evolution is kind of open to a range of patterns. So we see that bees and flowers and people and flags have a symbiotic relationship and follow similar patterns of natural selection. This is just my little theory. I appreciate you all listening and playing along. I encourage you all to plant more flowers and fly more flags. I have some references and stuff, but I appreciate you all hanging out and listening and inviting me. Yeah, any thoughts or ideas, or if you know a flag or a certain team or bee iconography around, I want to add that to my list and my compilation as well, and I can share that with you all with the hundreds of flags from bees if you're curious to look through them. So thanks for listening.
That was actually really fun. I honestly thought I was gonna be bored to death, but that was really interesting. Any questions from anybody?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah.
I'm a poor typer, but it just seems like the Slavic countries have more bee flags. Is there any reason for that?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of agriculture there. I think we know is it the Carolinian bee from Slovenia? I can't say the exact name. And the AZ hives that they have there, there's just a lot of beekeeping history there. So I think that's kind of why, of course, it has to do with which cultures also have flags. Not every culture uses flags in the same way that kind of my white male privileged Western culture does. And so it's kind of a certain bias, I think, to have, flags. So yeah, I'm not sure why that exactly, but I think they're very agriculturally based. So thanks for that, Bruce.
And Graham, you had several comments on the chat. I don't know if you were monitoring that, but
I can't follow it.
a lot of people were appreciating your presentation, and someone said they were geeking out with you on it.
Yeah.
I really appreciated the parallels you were drawing and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, Janet. I just, I'm still exploring with it. This is nothing severe or real yet, but yeah, I just like to look for patterns in life and observe bees and observe me and my inner self and people. So, yeah, I appreciate you guys listening.
And you do have a couple of questions.
Okay.
Someone asked, why do you think some of the flags have 3 bees?
Yeah, I did notice that too, that That was kind of a thing, you know. I think numbers have a certain kind of power within different cultures as well. I know with flags, the tricolor is a big thing. There's just kind of three, you know, branches of kind of organization or relationship, I think, that we can draw meaning from. So I'm not quite sure why three or not.
And then someone else asked, what are you doing with your content other than telling us? Are you writing a book, doing a blog, anything you're doing with that?
I've just presented it to the North American Vexillological Association. Vexillology is the study of flags, and I'm part of that association as well. So I've just kind of built this in the last few months. So no, I'm willing to put it onto a website or get it somewhere if anyone wants to help. But I definitely compiled, and I'm still compiling, all the bees of flags from around the world. That's kind of my niche now. So yeah, if anybody knows of some, or remembers one that they've had, I have. There's a high school that has. Oh no, yeah. There's random bee flags that have bees on them. So I just want to compile all of them in the world. And if anyone wants to help me kind of get it out there permanently, let me know. I'd love to share this content with anyone.
That's awesome. Thank you very much for presenting. Can I ask how you got into flags? Because you say you pretty recently got into it, right?
Yeah, I've been beekeeping for like 6 years and flag keeping just for about the 2 years. And I guess, you know, kind of once the 45th president Trump came into power, all these flags kind of came out of nowhere. I was like, what's going on? Like, why is the American flag all of a sudden a little bit different to fly, you know, and why are people waving all these flags with these certain colors and symbols? So I just kind of wanted to know what was going on, and then started to get into flags that are more philosophically oriented with ecology. There's a great ecology flag, a lot of planet Earth flags, a lot of flags that, you know, symbols that just help us think a little bit further beyond our national lines. So I just got more into symbols and graphics, and of course bees and what they mean around the world.
That's awesome. Cool. Thank you, Graham. Really appreciate it. That was really
Thanks everyone.
interesting.
Thanks, Ian.
That's all we have today, folks. So I'll open it up one more time for any other questions. Other than that, we'll end the meeting. So anybody else have anything you want to add before we end? All right. So as a quick reminder, I will send out the email to the members with the registration link to get on our swarm list. And also we have our bee day at the apiary coming up this Sunday. So I'll include some information as well on that as a reminder. But thank you all for joining, and I hope to see you guys on Sunday out at Green Acres. Bye.
I had one question for Duncan. I found your website and I emailed you through there. Would that be good, or do you have an email that would be better?
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
Great.
Yep.
Cool. Well, then I'll hopefully talk to you soon.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.